Good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us for this edition of News Check. It is the second day of September 2020. I hope you're having yourself a very wonderful morning so far. COVID-19 is still with us. Plus, of course, the government is trying to see how it can put measures in place to ensure that schools, once they reopen, students are safe, teachers are also safe. But there is a lot of pressure on the government to reopen schools. This morning, my guest will be Akelo Misori, the Secretary General for the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers. He will be trying to make sense of it all, plus, of course, a lot of emerging issues with regards to that. This afternoon, the Ministry of Health will be appearing before the Senate Health Committee. Of course, this is not new. The committee is trying to investigate matters at KEMSA. Tomorrow, a meeting has also been scheduled where KEMSA will be appearing before the same committee. This includes those suspended officials. A lot to talk about. But first, let's take a look at the reporter's diary. Welcome back. This morning, I am joined by the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers Secretary General Akelo Misori. Why is it that there's a lot of pressure on the government to reopen schools, despite the country still recording numerous cases of COVID-19?
Thank you so much for having me around first. I think the pressure is due to the fact that the general population is so anxious about the stay of children at home and the attendant issues related to children being at home. There is increase in crime among the youth. The girl child is getting pregnant, and abuse of substance and alcoholism has also crept in. So the whole thing has compounded the anxiety that now the parents find themselves difficult to deal with. And that is the kind of pressure.
All right.
Yes.
There is no any other force, because some of the arguments have been targeted towards the fact that there are people who had been benefiting from schools, suppliers of uniform, books, and whatnot. These are not the forces that are trying to pressure the government to reopen schools.
That could just be peripheral, but to the best of my interest, the wider issue is that the children are at home. If there are pressures, then the pressure is not only on those suppliers. Yes, there are so many employees of the school environment. Without the school existing freely now becomes a real challenge. They feel their jobs are also threatened, which is true. Like boards of management, teachers who are benefiting from being in school. So these ones have also informed, they have put a lot of pressure on the political class. Why are you trying to be quiet while we are suffering outside here? So those ones are peripheral, but the real issues are related to the continued stay of children at home. It is unbearable because children are not known to be staying that long, and these are very unprecedented circumstances, and very few people understand, and it is very, very disturbing, because even the parents maybe now when the children are at home, they find it very difficult to deal with the issues, the pressures the children put, because it is the teachers who know how to handle the children. Many parents usually stay with the children for less than 2 months in a whole year, but now they have been home all this period. The parents are also having the pressure to go to work, to look for what the children are going to eat, and it has not been very easy. Yes.
And for teachers, is it a good break?
Teachers are also very anxious. It is not a very good break, but of course, thanks to the government, they are going to continue to be paid.
All right.
So with them, I don't think there is much hassle. It is also good for them to have taken a very long sabbatical leave to rest at least. Teachers do not rest. Yeah.
And as Kupet, what sort of engagements are you having with the government and other unions just to ensure that the process is done in such a manner that when the time is right, there's no one who will be left behind?
Quite a number of teachers have developed certain modules to reach out to their children. But you know, in this country, we have the challenge of connectivity and so on. So only the teachers whose children are, or whose learners are exposed to the gadgets like the tablets or smartphones are reaching them. So that one has been on, but of course quite a number of teachers charge this kind of fee, which is very unfortunate. But you know, parents want it, and therefore the teachers are offering that kind of service. Yes.
And private schools have been really hit hard because as government employees, teachers will get their money, but those who are employed in the private sector have really been dealt a really huge blow because some of the employers are unable to pay their salaries, because we know that it is the school fees and some minor investments that these institutions have that provide that salary. What sort of engagements are you having with these teachers, or you have left it to the private teachers union to take a look at that?
Thank you so much. We have really tried, and several appeals have been made to the Cabinet Secretary and to the government to also inject stimulus package to private institutions, and which of course I think the government declared a guarantee of about 7 billion. That one will go a long way to help alleviate the suffering that the private schools may suffer. But of course it is true that many private schools have gone under because the main source of revenue is basically school fees, which is not being paid because when children are out of school, they cannot make that one, they cannot make ends meet. So the fees is not being paid, and therefore they have to lay off their workers, or sometimes they have to pay them a stipend to make them leave. But you see, private schools are made for business as one of the overriding principles of their establishment. So without profit, you can see many of the private schools are likely to go under if there's prolonged stay or close of schools and children are not going to school. Yes.
The curriculum 2020, it's as good as cancelled so far. But of course, there are those who feel that there's still time to resume classes. Now, describe for us what will happen in January if, let's say, the government chooses to open schools in January and not before January. Does it mean that the lessons that students were being taught in January are the same lessons that they will be taught in January, or probably the government will tweak it a little bit?
Thank you so much. These ones are basically containment strategies to have the children not to forget everything they've learned. But in my view, and let me be very clear that according to the Ministry of Education and what was declared before all stakeholders, is that the 2020 academic calendar was cancelled and we have a 0 year. That means that we are going to start where we left in 2021. So that is the reality of the situation. Any agitation to have the schools open earlier than 2021 has got far more reaching challenges than if we waited patiently up to 2021. For one, you remember that when the schools closed on around 15th of March, the issue which was there was that there were only about 2 weeks for schools to close, or about 3 weeks to close. And that means that if we opened schools in October, because apparently now September we may not open, if we open schools in October, for example, it means that that will be our second term. If that is the case, that our second term will run in November, December, and January. And that means that we shall have maybe the end of January, that is the end of that second term. That is a policy shift, and therefore the school calendar and academic year changes for basic education. So you can see how that one will also change other things, because we are likely now to have maybe term 3 starting maybe from March, April, May and maybe ending in June. Then maybe we are asking class 8 and Form 4s to sit for their 2020 exams. Are you seeing? That means that the entire academic calendar shall have shifted. So I feel we are safe with patiently waiting for 2021 to have the academic year begin. Because what we face currently is basically a situation which is similar to a situation of war. You cannot avoid it.
Yes.
And we did not plan for it. And we don't have even also a policy or a legislation about education in an emergency. So that is a major gap which this COVID-19 has really taught Kenyans. It has opened a new perspective of thinking that we must now inject. And you remember, even our public universities have the challenge of relaying academic programs online, because there has never been a serious investment or discussion around that platform. So with the ones you are talking about, like the one which is rolled out, being communicated through your own channel, and Kenya Institute for Curriculum Development, those ones have hit very grave and serious challenges of connectivity. The children do not have, the learners do not have the bundles and so on, and sometimes when the bundles are available, they cannot connect even with the system because the network is very weak. So we have a plethora of challenges facing the education system, which we must now navigate and negotiate going forward, that what will happen in future, because these are issues which may recur.
Do you think that perhaps we could have been in a better position to deal with this situation now that connectivity is a problem? Had we supported the government fully in the rollout of the digital literacy program, where tablets were being released to schools, and ensured that there is infrastructure to make it possible, could the circumstances, probably would have changed? Every student across the country would have access to online classes.
That one could have really supported the program. Let me just bring you to speed on saying that we did not support. No, we supported the government program. But the government beat itself on the same scheme. Remember, I think from the point of the top, there was a directive that all primary schools be connected. That one, I think nearly all primary schools in areas I visited are connected to the grid. That one is perfectly done. But another thing which failed to kick off was now the seriousness from the procurement point of view. So the Ministry of Education staff chose to mess up the whole process. It took nearly 2 years to come to a procurement, to procure the tablets. Now the laptops changed to tablets, and maybe now that is where the problem is. And for about 3 years, there was investment in national budgetary allocation for this. So what made it to fail was basically the government functionaries making it fail. And the Ministry of Education is a culprit in this, because they did not do due diligence to procure the gadgets. If we had those tablets, by now we could be having our 6th year with the use of tablets, so that the group which was in grade 2 could be in class 6 or 7 this year. You can see they would be in a position to make good use of the tablets if the lessons were being relayed through the same system. And therefore, another motivation could have arisen from the Ministry of ICT,
yes,
to develop their connectivity. But now there was no motivation because this project had failed. Let me just tell you that currently, a university like Oxford in the UK, the first years are undertaking lessons online. All of them, be they in doing engineering, medicine, and so on, all first years are taking education online because of COVID. What do you think is strange? The world has become a simple village. If it happens in the UK, why can't it happen here? We have developed very serious applications like the M-Pesa business. Kenyans are very innovative. This one could have worked we would be having our lessons being relayed. A friend of mine who is teaching in an international school in Bangkok took me through a 30-minute lesson and was telling me that because he's teaching physics for A levels, then he was telling me this is a practical lesson. And I realized that there are applications which can be, our laptops can be enabled to have that one. So it could have worked well, yeah.
And of course, there's always been that discussion about the need to have our education system, directly corresponding to the economic situation that we have. How many doctors we have currently, and how many will we need in the next couple of years? How many engineers do we have currently, and how many will we need in the next couple of years? In terms of steps being taken by the government to ensure that we are up to date, and probably in the next couple of years we are able to churn out a very good population of well-educated and hands-on citizens. What are you, satisfied with as KUPPET and not satisfied with as KUPPET, and are you involved in the process genuinely?
Let me just declare my interest that I'm not satisfied. And let me not talk about engineers, architects, doctors, and even lawyers. Let me talk about teachers. In this nation, we have had opportunity where quite a number of teachers. Currently, we have over 200,000 teachers who have been trained through our public institutions, and they are waiting to be employed. They are not yet employed. Yet, our schools do not have sufficient number of teachers required. So the economy must expand, and a conversation be developed so that, one, we meet the normal criteria of teacher ratio in school,
yes.
the pupil-teacher ratio in school. If once this one is met, then you will talk about quality education. But you cannot pride over production of so many engineers and so on. When you have engineers from Nairobi University, and when you come out here, you don't engage them, and they are border riders. Do you need a university education to ride a border? Those are the contradictions in our system, which must be addressed. Yeah. So if you talk about satisfaction, my satisfaction level is nearly 5%. In terms of, yes, we have exposed people to education, but we are likely to enter into a different era or regime of lawlessness, because you have got quite a number of people who have gone to school and then you have not engaged them sufficiently. So you will have people on the streets who will defy orders from the law enforcement officers, and they will also take, because they know how to make guns, they can even make those guns. So those are things which the policymakers in this nation are not taking seriously. I have not even heard this issue of COVID has never been prioritized by Parliament to discuss it extensively, even on Zoom. The other time we had a session in Parliament and a meeting of a Committee of Education, and it was very disheartening to realize that even their gadgets, they could not link up with those who are attending the same meeting outside the Parliament physically. So we have got so many gaps. Our digital, our systems, which even take stock of what we have done, is also very weak. Yes.
And there is a lot also to discuss when it comes to private-public partnership. Sometimes those in the private sector feel that the government has left them alone. We talked about the government being urged to do something for teachers who have been employed in the private sector. And is the private sector currently powerless to give an injection to assist the government deal with the situation at hand? Because the Education Cabinet Secretary has been making rounds in schools to ensure that they adhere to the protocols which have been laid out by the Ministry of Health. How will students and pupils be safe when schools finally reopen? What is the input of the private sector in this? Or they are just waiting for the government to do everything and follow suit?
I think it would be an understatement to say that the Cabinet Secretary has done much to education subsector or is doing much to the private sector. The Cabinet Secretary is walking around schools and inspecting whether the schools are ready. But the schools are not operating with a template of what they are supposed to make ready. what we expected, that's the reason for which I'm saying that even Parliament could have spared time to talk about this, so that they call about the Cabinet Secretary to tell them, to be asked or to put to account that what do you want to be in place for a school X. It is good you have told me you are coming from Homa Bay. We have got Homa Bay High School, Organde High School, for example. Those are schools which are having big numbers. Now, big numbers in terms of number of pupils, but they also have real challenges of boarding facilities, such that Homa Bay, which is now having about 1,600, was not built to accommodate 1,600. It was built to accommodate about 800 students. Now it has got more double than the students. Now with the new COVID requirements, it means that Homa Bay should have almost the same number of facilities if we have to reopen, for example. Yeah. So are you seeing that is the thing? So what we expect the Cabinet Secretary to do is to tell us that for a school with this kind of enrollment and with this number of facilities, before we open in 2021, we need you to have this increase. So we'll be seeing a chain of reaction from all the stakeholders, that parents are involved in raising funds and ensuring that they build a sufficient number of classrooms. The other dire area which require a lot of investment is in water as an infrastructure. This is a contagious disease, yes, and people must keep their hygiene. Wash your hands thoroughly. Are we making it possible that when you visit a school, one example you see is that the schools have got sufficient water supply to manage that component alone? That is an issue. Then for schools which are boarding, what are we doing to reduce the space between each bed and the other? Or are you aware that many schools have got triple deckers? How do you keep social distance in a triple decker situation in this? So in my view, I think the private sector, I think, have done better. Their appeal is genuine. They only want to get opportunity to pay their staff so that they are kept afloat. Their contribution to education in Kenya, it cannot be said any better. That one, they have sorted out the issue of excess enrollment in schools. They are the ones who have alleviated that enrollment. They have also injected some element of quality in education. When you want to see schools with better facilities, even in slum areas, those are private institutions. So their work has been commendable in terms of sorting the government in alleviating some of the challenges, especially of enrollment. Remember, currently we have 100% transition, and every child should be going to school. The persons which have made this one possible is the institution of the private sector, which are running private schools. So in my view, I think their contribution to sort the government public-private partnership is something which is perfectly there.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you compare the advent of free primary education and what we may perhaps experience next year? When the government said that school is going to be free, we saw an influx of pupils in schools, and there was concern that this is compromising on the quality. Now we are going to have a situation where a class that ought to have accommodated, let's say 35, will probably need to accommodate 20. What will happen? Are we going to require more teachers for these extended classes, or it is just going to be the same teachers but having to deal with probably a bigger class in terms of size and not number? And how is it going to affect quality of education?
Definitely, if we are to use the same parameters of the current enrollment status, we will be in trouble. But if we have to open with the new protocol of having smaller sizes of classes, two things must take place. That we have to increase the number of physical classes, and we also must employ more teachers. In fact, almost the same number of teachers were here. And that's why my first remarks in this discussion hinged on the element that let us wait patiently so that as we open in the new year, we are not going to be confronted with the current regime issues. If the curve flattens and there is no threat of infection, because there is also, we also have vaccines around, then the schools as they are will continue to be the way they are. But if we have to implement the new COVID protocols, then we must first ensure that the dormitories are increased for those boarding schools. The number of classes are also increased. Some other radical issues will also come in, that we may be asked to ask school communities to increase even land acreage, because we want to practice what we call social distancing. There are some schools like what I've mentioned here at Homa Bay High School. I told you that it was built to accommodate about 800, but now it has over 1,600 students, in which case even the field of play is not sufficient. So where you can see that stadium being constructed should be part of the school, so that at least they will accommodate the number of learners. You have learned that education is such important, an important venture that require very huge investment. In fact, quite a number of schools like Nairobi School and Lenana, those are the schools which may play safe, because they have got huge chunks of land, and therefore they will manipulate that environment to accommodate the new COVID protocols. But quite a number of schools, whether private or public, do not meet the criteria of social distancing or physical distancing as required by the World Health Organization.
And so what do you think might happen? These schools, will they fail to reopen, despite the government saying that if we are opening schools, then all schools will reopen? Those schools that will be unable to meet these demands, because we know that probably 70% will, and others, there are circumstances that will force them not to. What happens to those schools? Do those students get places elsewhere? What's the way
I
to
think
go?
that is why I am saying that the Cabinet Secretary must do more than what he's doing by visiting schools. We need to have a thorough debate on the status of our institutions, whether physical or social, so that we come up with the real template of what we will need in 2021. It is not going to be a walk in the park.
How realistic is the idea of community learning? I know that a number of questions have been asked on this particular idea by the government. There are areas which have tried it. Garissa did try it a couple of times, but there are others who have raised concerns and queries on the effectiveness of it.
Thank you so much. I think the major challenge with the community learning is there was no proper debriefing of the parties who are going to be involved. That is what is missing. Otherwise, it is a perfect bet for what situation we are in currently. The envisaged arrangement was that the teacher is in that neighborhood. The children are already in that neighborhood. They are not necessarily the children whom you teach in normal day situation, but they are your neighbors. You are in a sub-location, and that sub-location has got maybe about 10 teachers who are not basically teaching those children because they are teaching at far-flung areas. And the children who are there are not just children of one class. They are either class 1 up to class 8. So what was envisaged here was to have a multi-agency approach, which would involve that the teachers are identified and are given authority by the local community that you can now guide our children. Because of the issues which I have explained, that quite a number of children are being lost to drugs, to teenage pregnancies, and to other forms of crime. So as a member of that community, the fear of infecting them is not even there, because you are meeting in the local shop together, you even go to the same river and so on, or the same lake beach. So you people are living together. You can organize your own programs, and it was not based on the fact that you are going to teach mathematics or history, but definitely just life skill issues, guiding and counseling the youth, And from a perspective of somebody who has the capacity and the necessary competencies to guide. Because, as I've said here and observed, quite a number of parents are not also trained in colleges to be parents. So they rely heavily on what the teachers do with the children at school. And children also trust their teachers. And once you have now identified as a teacher, and the local community, Mijikumi, or the assistant chief is aware you are there, then they will be having that protection. So you can easily give the children the necessary support. It was basically a necessary support to make us reach 2021 in a common whole. Otherwise, currently I was talking to one of my officials who is also a women rep of Bungoma. She surprised me, told me that about 6,000 in that county, the ones whose cases are reported, about 6,000 girls are pregnant. That means that in 2021, those are enlisted as dropouts. So we wanted to scale, the mindset, I think, of the minister was to scale down the loss that we're likely to experience, especially children who have left school and reductions in crime and so on. Yeah.
There is that
it could have just worked perfectly,
yes.
But Kenyans are used to asking questions, so they ask even a necessary question on this program. This program was not intended to have teachers engaged in terms of lesson plan and so on. It was just like an informal gathering where they present their problems. You also share your experience, and you tell them that in the circumstance where there's war, what we expect are these disruptions. This is an enemy which is not even being seen. Let us be ready, protect ourselves, wash our hands, and so on. You tell them, if they are fishermen, why don't you know how to do some fishing? If they are farmers, you engage them in some activity, but even sports. Yeah.
All right. And I know, as the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, you are looking out for the welfare of your members. I also have a feeling that you have perhaps prepared a list of irreducible minimums, the things that you want the government to achieve to ensure that teachers are safe and they do not contract this virus should schools reopen when the virus is still with us. If at all they are, the list is there. What are some of the things included in this list? Are masks part of it, sanitizers, probably adequate sanitation for the spaces which teachers will be using?
We are guided by the current principles. For example, we are affiliates of ILO, and we have also Education International, which is our major body giving us guidance. They have also told us, but their protocols are derived from what the World Health Organization has prescribed. And that is what we also know the Ministry of Health is doing.
Let me get you short. We'll continue with that, but for now, we'll take a look at the Kenya Film Commission and Bomet County. They are currently signing an agreement. Of course, the Kenya Film Commission is engaging counties to ensure that its presence is felt across the 47 devolved units. Let us now listen in.
Between the commission and the county government. I know for a very long time, residents of Bomet have been looking forward to see a facility like the one we are taking to Bomet, so that they are able to utilize their talent to full potential. You may have the skill, but if you do not have the facility to enable you deliver to your product, then it will be futile. And I think that is the gap that the Commission, in partnership with the county government, is here to fill. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I find that many youth that are producing their content rely mostly on YouTube to market their content. As KFC, how are these youth going to benefit from you people? Are you going to sell their content on behalf of them, or what?
Okay, first of all, I would like to encourage each one of us to appreciate that film just like any other business, is serious business. Anytime we are setting out to produce content, you are producing this content with clarity as to whom you want to sell it to, which channels you are going to sell the product. You can imagine if the 47 million Kenyans who are each producing content and it's KFC that is selling on their behalf. What we are trying to say, we are going to continue building capacity of content creators so that they are aware on what channels they can be able to sell content. YouTube is just one. Remember, right now we are here about 20 people. Each one of us has a mobile phone. Do you know each of us is carrying a channel for content distribution? All we need to know and encourage the content creators, the youths you've mentioned, is to be able to understand how to monetize. How do you convert the content that you distribute to your audience into income? And as I said, YouTube is just one. The Commission has also introduced another program on content acquisition. Why have we introduced? We have introduced this program so that we can be able to open channels of distribution. There is the big screen, there is the telcos, there is the YouTube or the digital platforms, which are many. And I would like everyone to embrace the way the trends are moving in terms of technology. Because if we remain behind, then it will be very difficult on how we'll be able to sell our content. Our aim is to see end to end, from creation to distribution and consumption, that we are applying the latest technology, we are applying the very best skills, and we also undertake research to tell stories that will be consumed by many. Because when you do that, then it will be easy to create wealth. Okay, thank you very much. COVID-19 pandemic affected all sectors of this country. Film is not an exception. And we at the Commission, we were able to undertake research or a survey to ascertain how the sector or the industry was affected. And what happened is that the film industry largely hosts employees on contractual basis, project to project. So what happened is that we lost quite a number of jobs. Many projects were cancelled, some were suspended, but that did not deter the Commission to come up with the initiatives that will be able to bring back the industry to being alive again. That's why we developed the health filming guidelines, which were approved, and we were able to communicate to the industry, and we continue communicating so that there is no challenge in production in the wake of COVID. So today, despite COVID, you are able to go to the field, do your productions, as long as you adhere to the set guidelines. Of course, when we talk about a pandemic, it's not anything that anyone anticipated, but we have not to look at the downside. We have decided as an institution that we have to encourage filmmakers to look and take this pandemic as an opportunity to even reflect, write stories, have these stories produced, and possibly ensure that we are able to move. Yes.
Maybe what is the budget of the creation of that audiovisual hub, and what is the target number of?
I'll be very brief. The target of the Commission when it comes to film hubs, we look at being able to establish film hubs across the country, all 47 counties. Of course, over a period of time. For now, we are set to install or to have this established in Bomet and followed by Vihiga shortly. And the budget for each film hub is roughly 15 million.
So this is the first county that you started.
No, we already have a film hub in Nyeri, and Bomet is the second.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I'll be very brief because we have another sideman elsewhere. So this morning we are privileged as Bomet to have entered into a structured way of partnering with KFC by entering into a memorandum of understanding. So to us as a county government, we are seeing beyond the mandate of KFC in terms of expanding and promoting the film industry in the country. So this partnership to us will open up opportunities for our young people in terms of job opportunities. It will also strengthen us in terms of relationships with other institutions like Kenya Tourism Board, where we are partnered with them in terms of opening opportunities in the area of agritourism. So the only way we can market ourselves and tell the world that there are good things that you can come and see in Bomet is, of course, by producing films and sharing those films so that people, the world, can know that Bomet is there. The other thing that this partnership will give us is, of course, opportunities for training. We have Bomet University, and they have a department in media. So beyond the issues of employment, we also need to build capacity for our people. So this support that we are receiving from KFC will also strengthen our training institutions. In terms of the new curriculum, it is also one way of ensuring that we have structures in place to support the new curriculum, because we want to promote talent, and there is no way you can promote talent if you don't have the necessary equipment, if you don't have the necessary infrastructure. So in one way, KFC is ensuring that the Ministry of Education and the country achieves its objective in terms of the new curriculum. Otherwise, personally, I'm very happy for having been given this opportunity for partnering with KFC. We are stronger than yesterday. Thank you.
Exactly.
I think we still have some few logistical issues to clear, but I'm very happy. I've seen the equipment. We have the equipment already purchased. So the sooner we clear those small things about the land and so forth, I think we can start as soon as tomorrow. Yeah.
Thank you. Asante sana.
That was the governor for Bomet County, Hilary Barchok, and the Kenya Film Commission CEO, Timothy Owase. There's an MOU which has been signed between the two entities to create a film hub in Bomet County. There is active engagement to ensure that the youth and entrepreneurs in counties are empowered and talent supported. This partnership will go a long way in ensuring that Bomet County becomes one of the regions that Kenyans can pride in terms of film and other artistic creations. It is a project that is geared towards ensuring that the youth there are empowered and talents are also empowered. And still in studio with me is the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, Secretary General Kelo Misori. I know that we also have politics to talk about, education and politics intermarry. But before we get to that, we are talking about the irreducible minimums, the things that teachers want the government to do for them before they commit to teaching or resuming their classes. Water and sanitation is one of the biggest challenges, especially to some counties. Homa Bay County is one of those areas that the supply of water is really at its lowest. We have other counties as well that are struggling. This is going to be a problem, without a doubt, for these counties. What do you think needs to be put in place to ensure that sanitation and the supply of water is paramount and is going to ensure that the teachers, students as well, are safe, they are able to wash their hands?
Thank you so much. I think we have been talking about this over the period. When the minister appointed us to be part of the committee to advise on how schools can reopen after or because of COVID, there were a host of recommendations, which were not basically teachers' recommendations. We were there as witnesses because we are being controlled by what the World Health Organization is saying about this pandemic and about what our local Ministry of Health has also indicated. We have had engagement with our partners outside the country, and most of them are not having the challenge that we have. But of course, they are telling us that these ones are things which must be met for schools to reopen. Mm-hmm. We have to get running water at very strategic points in schools, and that is what we expect to see. We must get, this time round, the water supply or our water point must be next to a classroom. As you enter the classroom, you need to wash your hands. All learners need to wash their hands. Around the dining area, that one also needs water. Around the dormitories, and even at the gate, before the children or the learners get to school, or before any visitor get to school. These are protocols which are likely to affect reopening of schools. And that is the reason for which earlier on in the discussion I did indicate that what we expect the Cabinet Secretary to put or to initiate is to give institutions or the field officers the protocol and the template to work with, so that as we prepare to open the schools, these were supposed to be ready. We need to have teachers who can be learning, teaching, delivering lessons from their offices. That means that we need a good digital platform already established. These things will make this country to move. Otherwise, we are likely to have the real challenge of not reopening the school because of our complacency. The schools need to be ready to open, where the workers are safe, which include the teachers, even the groundsmen and the groundswomen, and the students are also safe in their classrooms. We need classrooms which are clean. One thing which the Cabinet Secretary told us when he visited some schools, he still found very archaic desks. So it is as if we want to see completely new facilities in schools. So it is not going to be a very cheap exercise, and that's the reason for which my emphasis is on talking to Parliament to allocate sufficient funds to the Ministry of Education so that schools reopen when they are safe to accommodate the learners.
And counties, are they doing enough? Do you think that they are doing enough to ensure that water provision is something that is well taken care of? Because I know that in the financial years that we have seen ever since the advent of devolution, there is money that has been going towards developing water infrastructure. Is it time that probably counties show their citizens results?
I think that is the most pathetic situation we are in, that many counties, especially the counties where we come from, have the real challenge of water provision. what I've seen happening is they are drilling boreholes, they are digging and building some dams, which may not help solve the problem we have. We need to have running water in taps. And the Lake region being what it is, I would expect that there is investment in just pumping that water from the lake and treating it well, so that we have clean water. We don't have much challenge with the treatment because it is a freshwater lake, and therefore the water from the lake will not demand as much investment as other people may think. But we have not doing much, and we are yet to experience the real change in terms of water provision. This is going to be a real challenge. In fact, if we had clean water and with education, we will have minimized even health problems, not necessarily COVID, typhoid, dysentery, and so on.
The reforms which were injected in the education sector really brought some difference. We no longer saw the thousands and thousands of A planes and another thousands of A minuses, just slightly above 140 attaining A in the KCSE examinations over the last couple of years. Are we going to see a situation where we are going to pick it up from where we left, or probably this is going to be interfered with? Probably not so many students will be able to attain the marks that we have seen over the last couple of years.
My understanding is that everything is intact in terms of where we have reached in terms of containing theft, because the number of A's that you are trying to talk about were due to the fact that like examinations were very irregular, there were cheatings and so on. But that one, I think the Kenya National Examination Council has put some kind of standards, and I think for about 3 years this one has been moving on. I don't expect us to go to degenerate, but you remember we are also at transition. There's a group in grade 4 which is not tied to doing exams in the format that we have always done before. So this one has got just about 2 years to reach where they are going to do their, to have their year, and then they transit to secondary schools, which we will also have at the same circle like they have. We are under what we call competency-based curriculum regime. So that one is something which I don't think we are likely to witness.
What is the relationship currently between the Teacher Service Commission and the unions?
It is warm, but of course there are some people who are complaining, but KUPPET does not complain about the relationship that exists between TSC and KUPPET. We are having a very warm and brisk relationship. We have already forwarded our new proposal for a new CBA which begins next year. So what we are now waiting for is the Teacher Service Commission to give us a counter offer on what we have outlined as the things that we want the teachers to have. Yeah. Not a reducible minimum, but what we have put for engagement in the new era. Because remember, when we signed a CBA in 2016, quite a number of our teachers complained that they didn't benefit much because we focused we focused our attention on the heads of institutions and principals of institutions, and those who have responsibility. But majority of the teachers who form the bulk, they were not properly cushioned in that arrangement. Yeah. But now that is the focus area. So we hope that the Teacher Service Commission is going to, in a few weeks, will give us a counter offer, which we shall subject to a negotiated process, and we hope this time round the SRC will consider not interfering the way they did before that.
What's the highest and the lowest that you are asking for in the new CBA?
The new CBA, we are asking for a better remuneration of about 70% of salary increment of those teachers in lower job groups. So I may not have the highest here, but of course that one will be substantial. If we got even 40, it will make the lowest paid teacher earn something like 80,000.
So
which is not a bad idea.
You aim for the sun and then you land on the moon. Is that the kind of...
That's a normal thing in negotiations. Even like you, I know you are a fisherman. When you have got a very big fish, you tell me that you want 200 shillings. I tell you, no, I can only pay 50. But we definitely will end up getting it at 120. So you will have gotten a better deal. But of course, the negotiations between workers and the employer is not based on just going to the sky. It is based on a very careful study of the prevailing economic circumstances, how the economy has grown, and the prevailing economic circumstances. That are teachers able to go to work, paying for bus fare? Are they able to pay rent? So those are the things which dictate the nature of demands that we put. Like now, quite a number of teachers have a very challenging regime to even pay fees to their children in schools. How I wish that all teachers, because they are professionals, their children go to school free. If the government would have given us that, and then we have been given free housing, then we would not even be demanding that much. But you know, we are competing with people like you who earn colossal sums of money, and
I don't know that is entirely true, but all in all, we all want the best for us and for our children.
Yes.
But there have been some concerns, especially I don't want to call them rival unions, but there have been concerns from some sections of NAT that KUPPET is always in bed with the government, even when it comes to matters that needs to be addressed objectively. They will always side with the government. Is this true?
You know, I think maybe today I must give a proper relationship that exists between a teachers' union and an employer. It means just being in bed. If that term can be allowed in a public TV like this one, it means just that. You cannot agitate as if you are faceless and you don't have the capacity to reason why you want some things. So that one require very serious strategy. If it means that it appears as if you are in bed, that is what it is, because it is called a social dialogue platform. You know, during the Industrial Revolution, one of the things which brought a lot of a dispute between workers and employers was the labor relations. How are workers relating to their employer? Workers were fighting their employers on the streets. That area is not there. And that's the reason for which every year, in the month of June, this year we didn't go.
Yes.
We go to the pilgrimage where labor issues are canvassed, where government is there, the workers' representative is there, and also the employers. Tripartite engagement. You cannot talk about tripartite engagement through the social dialogue platform when you are carrying a stone as you are going to milk a cow. You cannot. So those accusations, they fall below the power of what social dialogue is. You know, in this nation, we have got the right to form, join, and participate in the activities of a trade union. And one of the activities of a trade union is to engage the employer, and for the sake of workers. And if that one fails, only when it fails, in our case it has not failed, that is when you use the last bullet you have in the barrel, and that is the strike, which is also sanctioned by the Constitution and the Labor Relations Act 2007. So where are these people who are accusing KUPPET? Where are they? You know, it is not just starting on the streets and starting yelling and then you think that you are reasonable. You are not. You can only claim being reasonable and perfect in this relationship if you can engage. For example, when like now there is employment, we are asking the employer to be very, very genuine so that every person who merits gets employed. Do I call a strike that I suspect this strike is, this employment is going to be flawed? We have already written a letter that we expect fair play in giving the teachers who deserve these positions to be given. And then we are asking them, can you deploy them accordingly? And that is what happens.
And now, both unions have representation in parliament.
Yes.
Wilson Sosion is a member of parliament now. Omboko Milemba is also a member of parliament. What sort of benefits have you accrued from this?
My friend, it has been very beneficial. Both Sosion and Omboko Milemba, they are not only those ones. We have also Catherine Wabelianga, who is also a member of COPET. That's the women rep Bongoma, who is also our agenda secretary.
Yes.
There is also the assistant national treasurer, who is an MP of Bomet Central, who also an official of COPET. Are you seeing this? So we have got a host. The general secretary of Civil Servants Union is also in parliament. That is Honorable Odege, who comes from Nyatike. So we have got so many members of parliament whose background is from the union. They have been very useful, especially matters related to labor, and especially these ones who come from education have been very, very useful in the education committee of parliament. So we use them to at least pass some of the policies that we would want to be canvassed. They are very useful in that respect. So there, nobody's complaining that we are being given, we are in bed with those members of the parliament.
How many members does COPET have currently?
COPET have about 120,000 members currently.
All right.
Yeah. Then the total number of teacher population is about 320. You know, there has been an assumption or an illusion that whoever is not in KNUT is in COPET. No. We have got a divide because we represent post-primary teachers. So that one is the division. So nearly all the teachers now in post-primary institutions belong to COPET. And that's where they belong, because even the recognition agreement, a memorandum of understanding we have with the employer, is that the Teacher Service Commission will not enter into any negotiation with anybody who purports to represent post-primary teachers other than COPET. So you can see.
120? 22?
120,000.
120,000.
Yeah.
How much does a teacher remit per month?
About 1.8% of that.
1.8%.
Of the basic, not of the salary.
How do you measure the benefit of this?
The benefit, you know, the members subscribe that you take up their challenges at the place of work. So that is the measurement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know that trade unions have always been important, and they have worked for the benefit of its members. But the politics of it all is also something that the members have to deal with. Unlike NAT, COPET can be seen as having organized itself over the last couple of years and ensured that it speaks in one voice. What is the secret of this, or probably there is some power within that prevails over everything?
First, it's the instrument which govern, the bylaw which govern the institution.
Yes.
We have the COPET constitution, which has really clearly spelled out the role of each and every person and every structure. We have the delegates conference, which has got membership from branches. We have the National Governing Council, which has got all the branch secretaries and 12 nominee women, and all the 10 National Executive Committee members. They belong to the National Governing Council. And then we also have branches with almost similar structures. We have the Branch General Assembly, the Branch Governing Council, the Branch Executive Committee. And then we also have trustees. So that instrument of governance has really made us to have a very coordinated approach in handling our issues. But above all, it is also the individuals in leadership, and then their capacities, individuals and their capacities. This has been the secret behind this. Like you attacked me when you were introducing this, that we seem to be in bed. We seem to be in bed with the government. First is the strategy, and also a position which we have developed over the time. That we look at issues and we say this one merits going to yell in the press. This one merits going to court. This one merits a strike. But we don't just yell because yelling is there.
So
We cannot also cry as babies, at that point, because we have got inherent powers granted by the Constitution. So you don't just toss Kuppet and then you expect us not to bite. We will bite very seriously. Yes.
So what's your target from 120 in the next couple of months? Or
We are now going to expand our horizon to go to counties and recruit all those who are employed by the county government in terms of TVET institutions. I think that. So once we bring them, what those ones are now going to be a huge number, because those ones are post-primary institutions. So once we bring them on, we will be having over 200,000 members. That Kuppet will be the largest union in Africa with that power, and it will be serious. We will be calling shots.
All right. Will you be still in Kuppet by then? Because I know that you have political ambitions as well.
So far, what obtains now is that I'm in Kuppet. But when time comes for other engagement, I will definitely make considerations whether I leave or I stay.
Is it possible to serve both?
It is not going to be possible. But if I successfully get what I want in the other political world, I will definitely relinquish this one to more energetic and people who are more focused, and they will carry it forward.
You have expressed interest in the gubernatorial position in Homa Bay County. Of course, I'm sure that there are a number of issues that you have identified that you need fixed. What are some of these things that you want to fix as governor?
As governor, if I got the opportunity, I will definitely fix service, because service is what is lacking in Homa Bay. I will just basically fix service, because the government, I will not reinvent things. I will only go with the one strategy that I am fixing this service, which is one thing. Because if the county government has all the mandate to ensure that health operates, and year in, year out, the workers are on strike because they are not tooled to do the work. They cannot earn their salaries, yet they have got a budgetary allocation towards that recurrent. It means that something is wrong with the service. And then I will definitely bring in integrity in the way you operate. I think that is also what Kuppet has enjoyed in my leadership. That we don't just speak because we want to speak. We are action-oriented guys, and that is action which is going to drive the service charter of Homa Bay. I think that is what is missing, because we have what it takes in terms of resources. We have what it takes in terms of human resource and all the wealth in the lake, on the ground, and the favorable weather conditions and so on. So what do we lack? I think we are missing something seriously in the capacity in the leadership, and that is what Kuppet has enjoyed, and that is what I'm taking back to my people.
What is your relationship with the current governor of Homa Bay?
That's my mentor.
Because if he is your mentor, then it means that probably the things that you have learned, I don't know whether good or bad, but with every leadership comes a number of things. Ideas change, the direction of things also change as well. But in terms of management of public resources, the Auditor General has had his queries and raised a couple of issues over the years. Devolution has been with us. What are some of these things that you have identified in terms of the management of public funds that you feel have to change?
I think, to repeat it, I think the county government of sorts, but more specifically Homa Bay, they have not been prudent in management of resources. So they have governance issues. That governance issue is what needs to be fixed, and that's the reason for which I'm talking about service.
All right.
Because if you want to give people lies, you have committed that your mandate is this, and they don't see, then it means that there's a problem with the governance. So the governance issue is what must be fixed in Homa Bay. nothing else. Any excuse people have about party, about what, those ones are far-fetched, because you cannot expect me that that I come from Nairobi here to go to Homa Bay to organize people to demonstrate on the streets. As then those people, why were they elected? Did they forget why they were elected? If people are appointed to positions like to manage resources, why did the Public Service Board give them those jobs? If they have failed to sack them, then those are people who must meet me just when I'm entering, they just go, because I cannot stomach that.
And what is your take on the current impasse on the division of revenue formula? Senators have been trying to strike a deal on what way or what is the best alternative for what has already been made available. Does it mean that more money, more development, or if the situation remains the same, even if they are able to negotiate a very good deal, there still won't be any difference at all?
To the best of my knowledge, I think the position taken to allocate resources according to population was a very sound decision. And I think the senators need to stamp their feet to ensure that they cement that position. But already there is a political issue that you already gave some people, and now it appears you want to remove. A formula need to be developed so that at least counties with huge populations are allocated more resources. For example, if services are to be rendered, especially what I saw the president illustrate using Nairobi, that Nairobi has people who do not have toilet, surely. Toilets are a function of a development agenda that they are developed using resources. So if you give people the same number, the same amount of money who come from a less densely populated region, then you will not have considered, you will perpetuate poverty in a highly populated region. So that is what I feel should have informed this. That is a very reasonable approach. But you know, we have politicized the whole process. Some people now want to jump ship from a government or from their parties, thinking that they are betraying, which I don't think should have taken place. The senators should just chew the bullet, do what is reasonable.
Is 316.5 enough?
It is not enough, but at least if that is what they are still struggling to have, a more reasonable approach should be adopted to give counties more resources and then rationalize also how those resources are allocated according to population.
All right.
Yeah.
We are taking a short break. We'll be back with more. That is Akelo Misori, the Secretary General, Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers. Stay with us.
Gear up and maintain a healthy, fit and active lifestyle right there at home by keeping up with Gear Up on Channel 1, 5:30 to 6 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Gear up every day for every moment, and remember to stay home and keep safe.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Make him understand before the debate starts. He is still a child, unaware of the customs of the royal family.
I know, Noor, it is not easy for you to do this task, but we are helpless. Moreover, this is a fact. It is my helplessness only that wants you to seek Dastan's help.
Ashok needs to help himself on his own. Only then will he be able to help Magad.
Tunakupa burudani.
Na umbea, yani stories zinazo trend kwenye mitandao ya kijamii.
See baby, now we are two in one. We are two in one.
Interview kali za wasanii wapendao.
Mguu pande panda milima. Aoye izungushie hapo ma. Kama una
Ndani ya March of Life kupitia KBC Channel 1 na Pwani FM.
Kuanzia mida ya saa 3 mpaka mida ya 5 kamili asubuhi. Ukiwa nami ni Teken 1GB.
Mimi ni Marco. Keep it locked.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Kama umeona hawa jirani zako.
Hawa ndugu yangu walikuja
Oh, Hariri. Naambie za masiku.
Asa tukashikwa mimi na brother yangu tulikuwa tujavaa mask. Tumekuwa quarantine.
Basi hata tulikuwa tukuzungumzia hapa na mzee tukiulizana mbona hukuja kwa ule mkutano. Hariri alipatikana na mashaka, alipelekwa karantini.
Ngima tege gaska watu tegu, ngima te yat mugulel dang, ngima te mangue, nyange begi putinai. Lale, kimi giba genge, Kitut FM gigosi, Kitut FM gigosi, Kitut FM gigosi.
98.0 Kitut FM gigosin.
Good morning. Thank you very much for keeping us company. This is News Check. Just a quick reminder, the Kenya Film Commission and the Bomet County Government have signed a memorandum of understanding. This is geared towards setting up a film hub in Bomet County. There is active engagement between the two entities to help grow the art industry in Bomet County. The Kenya Film Commission is hoping to replicate this in other counties as well. There are projects which are currently ongoing. There is Studio Mashinani. This is also being run in partnership between KBC and the counties, as well as the Kenya Film Classification Board. These efforts are geared towards ensuring that young Kenyan budding talents are given the opportunity to express themselves artistically and be able to earn some much needed income in the face of this COVID-19 or even post-COVID-19. We are still talking about matters education, mixed a little bit with politics, of course, all geared towards ensuring that Kenya is well placed in terms of development. In studio is Akelo Misori, the Secretary General for Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers. You have said that you intend to drive up the numbers from 120,000 to probably 300,000 or even more. This, of course, sounds very attractive, but quality is what everyone wants to achieve. Quantity is good, but quality is better as well. Now, in terms of ensuring that teachers have a very strong ground, they are able to bargain successfully with their employer, what are some of the things that you as a union is going to include, the CBA is already there. You're hoping that from 70% the government might agree 40%. I hope that it won't go lower than that. But how are you positioning yourself strongly to ensure that despite everything, KUPPET is still going to be the union for every post-primary education teacher in the country?
Thank you so much. I think what I need to emphasize is that our levels of engagement as of now will be informed also by the new developments in the education subsector. One of them is now health, that the teacher's health must now be paramount. Another issue is that, remember, we have got a seriously worrying trend of an aging population among teachers. And this currently, the number of teachers, what even make even opening of schools in January being a big challenge, is that nearly half of the current teaching population are above 50 years. That one is a very worrying trend, especially in the wake of this pandemic, because if they have underlying conditions, then it will be bad. But of course, let me now address your issue about how we want to make the KUPPET the union of choice. We have proved that we are stable. We now operate on our own office premises, and we have developed capacity, and we are continuing to develop capacity of the union leadership, be it at the branches. We are also the largest democracy of trade union leadership in Kenya, because we carry out very fair and free elections every 5 years. Elections are coming next year, and we have seen a very strong preparedness among the teachers themselves to want to offer themselves for leadership. So that is, we will start from there. I've already told you that we have got a very strong and progressive constitution, which has given that this. We also have a very good relationship with the employer, and that if you don't have a good relationship with the employer, you cannot get anything. So we want to now get into the business of identifying, which of course we have done. That what is good now is to cover the majority of the teachers who are not in the leadership of our institutions to be covered in the new CBA dispensation. So that one, we know we will get it. Once we get it, every teacher will be confident to join. If we don't get what we want, we will develop all other strategies to ensure that going forward, we get it in the final end. So that is what we are doing. But we have a very strong base in terms of structures, that these structures are responsive to the needs of the teachers.
Is the government doing enough to make the teaching profession as attractive as possible?
So far, Edward, I want to just say this. I come from a purely teacher family, and I've seen it grow. I've seen it grow. My late dad died a teacher. I taught for 29 years. My juniors, my first sister who took me to school taught for 27 years. The other sister taught for 35 years. Two of my junior siblings, one of them is a principal of a school in Makueni. The other one is a tutor in a teacher's training college. So we are teachers, and I've seen how teaching has served this, how teachers have suffered in this nation. Do you know currently teachers have the capacity to get even a 2 million loan, and they service that one within a record 5 years. Somebody who has gotten a 2 million loan in Siaya or in Kisumu or in Homa Bay can put up a decent building. So that one is a different. Currently, you look at the number of teachers who drive. Those ones are, you can be told that those vehicles which are there, only one belongs to an accountant. The rest are for teachers. So the preserve of having vehicles by other professions, not teachers, is now gone. We have made it. When I joined teaching, I told you I taught, I started teaching in the 80s, and our salary was basically 2,490 as beginners. But do you know now, the person entering the field enters at 34,900. So that's the basic pay, with a house allowance of 6,000 or 10,000. and then that man with the commute allowance. So we have improved. During when we started teaching, we could only use bicycles to go to school. But now no teacher, you will see no teacher with a bicycle. The least a teacher can use is a motorbike. So that means that we have really grown over the period. Quite a number of teachers now have got their homes. But that is not where we are. What we have here is that we are now pushing for also serious mortgage facilities and a robust comprehensive medical cover, such which will even cover for the COVID circumstances. So those are the things. So we have grown and we have moved the profession to a level. Remember, there are times then we used to have even strikes twice a year. Those things disrupted learning, but at least our employer and the government also learned a lesson that engaged these fellows. So we got the first CBA in 2016, which is a landmark. It had never been registered before. And I think that is where Kuppet now plays in that kind of league, where you appear reasonable, but when it pinches, you also remind your partners that we cannot take this pinching anymore. You must improve our terms. Like now with the new protocol injected by health, must inject new ideas, which I may not reveal here.
And what sort of support is Kuppet getting from parents? I know that the management of pupils is a shared responsibility between the government, the teachers, and the parents as well. What sort of help are you getting from parents, and how constructive is the engagement?
We are not directly dealing with the parents as an organization that we expect them to do this one for us. But remember, most of places where we work are owned by the communities. So the communities make provision of the infrastructure in schools, and they also form the committee of board of management and so on. So that is the link. So we have always cried that they need to cooperate, they need to give teachers leverage and time to provide education with a lot of freedom. And I think we are not fighting the parents. The parents, that's the reason for which they are asking us, when are you opening schools? Because they know their children are safer in our hands than in their hands.
Between enrolling a pupil to an online class and employing a private tutor, which one makes more sense, and which one is more affordable?
I don't know the cost, because the costs vary according to towns and neighborhoods. But engaging a tutor will basically to give support on things which are not learned, especially remedial duties and so on. So I may not prefer the other, but if we have to replace online learning and face-to-face learning, I still think that the online learning is still fall far short of what is supposed to be done. But of course there should be an integration. In the absence of this, if we cannot have face-to-face, we should have an online learning, because those who are in the age-going bracket should be continuously engaged with those items of learning. If we leave them like that, then we lose an entire generation.
And do you think that perhaps the government should consider giving the private sector the opportunity of developing the online learning platform and procure it instead of the government taking the responsibility of developing it from scratch? Because earlier we were talking about the digital literacy program, which experienced a couple of challenges, and right now there are those parents who feel that they are unable to provide their children with access to internet, and there are those who also have no TV or even radio to lend to their children to follow the online classes which are currently being provided for by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development.
I think the reverse should be the same. The government should provide the platform and only invite the expertise from technocrats to involve, whether they are from public or from private. They should develop the expertise together. Education is a very sensitive area, such that you cannot leave it in the hands of private operatives. Then they will fleece the government, and we will not get value for what we want. But of course, if the government is in control, they can invite the expertise from the private sector to partner with them to develop a very good platform for digital learning.
And when schools open next year, there is hope that by then a vaccine shall have been invented and everyone treated. If we don't end up with that kind of a situation, what are we looking at? Students being asked to go to school with masks and sanitizers. Is this going to be too much for our young ones, or you perhaps think that by then they shall have adapted to the new normal?
I stand guided, but I am also following the trends from the rest of the world. I'm seeing that certain age groups are being encouraged to wear masks and to sanitize, and also to wash their hands thoroughly. I think what is going to take place will be determined by the health expert input on how we should behave in public. In fact, from what I've seen is that we may not forego the use of masks in schools, and therefore masks may be part of our uniform for some time to come, because if we have to contain this in the absence of the vaccine. But one thing which is supposed to be made mandatory to be present in school is the infrastructure of water, so that at least the extent of hygiene is contained. One thing which I didn't mention in our earlier discussion is the element of the sanitation area. Our schools are poor in terms of how our washrooms in schools are in very dire and pathetic situation. So that one is also an area which must be addressed. Water is going to be a mandatory facility to be in schools, and then sanitation of schools, so that at least cleanliness must be above board.
And the question there is, are we ready to reopen schools and resume classes? Actively, the government is doing enough to ensure that we are, but the Ministry of Health is also dealing with issues arising as far as COVID-19 is concerned. But all in all, we want the best for our children, and we want the best for our teachers, and we also want the best for those who have invested in education. The private sector, they're reeling from the effects of this. But the safety of children and all the players will always remain paramount. What do we do to ensure that the interests of other players within the circle are also taken care of? Or should we just ignore others and just focus on our children and our teachers?
I think what has been lacking is debriefing of the public on the importance of the health component in the delay in reopening of schools.
Yes.
I think that is what is lacking, because what the Cabinet Secretary of Health is giving us is what the public is consuming, and especially now when there was low testing capacity, and people started thinking that there is a flattening of the curve. That is what is encouraging the quest to have learning resume. But at least we need to have a proactive engagement with the public and to give them the right information, not just to wait for Minister Kagwe to give us the information related to health status and so on. They should be told that this is a pandemic, and the disease is contagious, seriously contagious. And if we open schools when we are not yet ready, we are likely to get more fatalities. So this is what should be in the public. But the idea of waiting for a brief, like now, everybody is waiting, and they think that the president will open the country economy on 27th. These ones are far-fetched. We would wish to see media houses like this one giving very proactive education to the public, bring people like me here, the way you have done, but more serious guys who knows things about health, to teach the public on this. We need to see that COVID money spent in at least distributing posters like we had during HIV/AIDS scourge. So those are the things which are there. Otherwise, if we wait for this event to overtake us,
yes,
then we'll still be coming here saying that open schools, it is now time. I saw in CNN that the American universities which opened are registering upsurge. But I've also seen in France that the schools are opening despite the upsurge. In other words, they have put serious conditions, protocols, and even in China, they have put serious protocols to be followed as people open schools. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Even the idea of saying masks and so on. I saw the cabinet secretary talking about we need 1 billion masks. That is scary. We need 1 billion Kenya shillings to buy masks. That is scary. He has not said we need 2 billion to put water in schools. Are you getting that point? Because what is important here, it is an hygiene, and I think I pick it from what he has said. As a medical doctor, he knows this thing is a hygiene issue. We must just be proactive. But above all, I've already indicated,
yes,
we need these things to have a place in the National Assembly to be discussed as a matter of priority, so that we don't lose a generation. Because it is very dangerous to also have prolonged stay of children at home. That is also very dangerous.
The President, during his address to the Council of Governors in the virtual COVID-19 conference, did mention that mental health is also an issue here. And mental health, everyone is affected here, be it a child or be it a grown-up. When we open schools, or as we think about reopening schools, what sort of systems should be put in place to ensure that both teachers and pupils are well taken care of in terms of their mental health, just for those ones who have been affected by COVID-19, because if you have to wash your hands every now and then, you have to put on your mask, it means that the danger is always lacking, and you kind of lose focus of what you should be doing. What should be done to ensure that those who have been affected the most are taken care of, and when they go to that school or sit in that classroom, they don't think about anything else but the focus that they're supposed to have?
I think that is also the preparedness that we need to have prior to opening in early January, because we now have the September, November, October, November, and December. We have sufficient time to engage psychologists to come up with the prescription on the kind of psychosocial support that the schools may require and the students may need. We need this time to prepare for that. I think that is a very important area. Just like, because when the schools open, some of the children may have lost their parents, their relatives. Teachers also will be falling in the same category. And therefore, there will be a lot of post-traumatic experiences which must be addressed. So we expect the Teacher Service Commission, the Ministry of Education, to get ready for that kind of scenario, to make available the trainers,
yes,
or those people can provide psychosocial support to address the issues.
So does it mean that probably there'll be need to have counseling programs in schools?
Yeah, that one is always there, but more specifically to address the emerging issue caused by COVID, we need a very strong base of psychosocial support of counselors.
And the ones that we already have, how targeted are they? Do we have probably sessions where these counselors have moments with individual
Currently,
students?
the ones which are there basically address the specific needs of children with needs in school, and general counseling and guidance for them taking careers and so on. But of course, there are children who come with some special issues which need to be addressed. We have guidance and counseling teachers, but this one here is going now to go beyond the normal counseling the teachers are involved in, because the teachers themselves may require the same support. So that's the reason for which I'm saying we need to collaboration between the Ministry of Education and the Teacher Service Commission to develop this platform, to develop a base from which we will pick those who will give psychosocial support to schools.
And going forward, post-COVID, what are some of the best practices in education sector that probably will need to carry forward?
One which we have touched on, we need to improve the infrastructure. But the curriculum of the schools, besides the transition we have here for competency-based curriculum, must also include, among other things, making teachers prepare in the area of IT. That we will need colleges to reform their curriculum to include, among other things, a mandatory units to make teachers capable of preparing lessons online. This is not going to be a new normal, but it's going to be a mandatory condition for us to adopt, where teachers have the capacity and requisite capability to render lessons online. Currently, even if it was said that we have tablets and so on, maybe only a third of the teachers have the capacity to do that. So that is a very strange thing to have in a country like ours, where we pride over development on issues like using everybody having a smartphone, but we cannot relay our lessons or prepare them online. Those are capacities which are going to be mandatory. But another thing which is very critical for the minister, we need to redefine schools. Define schools and ensure that schools are built on specific acreage of land, and they have got minimum facilities to undertake education programs. If schools need to be categorized, not according to national, extra-provincial or otherwise, but should be categorized according to size.
And as a union, will you resist any attempt by the private sector to probably increase school fees come next year? Because I know that there will be attempts to recover some ground which have been lost.
That responsibilities with the minister. They need to regulate. But because this is a private enterprise, how do we interfere with people's businesses? We will definitely join other Kenyans to ask them to rationalize the fees that they charge. You know, even now as we talk about will we resist, there are some schools which pay more than even public universities. If there are certain private schools which charge primary school kids more than what those who are taking PhDs pay. Are you seeing this? And they are not complaining. But there are also some schools which are basically in the slum areas and are private. They are even charging less than what is being charged in public schools. So it will depend on neighborhoods and what is obtaining. But that regulation need to be there from the Ministry of Education.
And we have also seen a number of teachers employed by the government investing in education as well. Some teachers opening schools here and there. Of course, that's a normal investment for anyone. But when you speak about fairness and the need to ensure that both sides are empowered, as a teacher, do you think that probably that is a divided loyalty? You are trying to push the government to make your work easy, but on the side, you are not really creating a good environment or conducive or affordable environment for parents.
I don't think it goes to that extent, but think it this way. In this country, nurses and doctors are given practicing allowance so that they don't do business. Yet they are the ones who are running most private hospitals. Why are teachers being looked at as having conflict of interest in this matter? In fact, according to the law, the teachers are not supposed to run schools. But because of that fluidity in understanding in the neighborhood, in the environment, you realize nobody will target teachers. Like, for example, judges do not run law firms. Are you that point? Yeah. With them, they have strictly followed that. But doctors in this country are the ones you meet in public hospitals are the ones who are running state-of-the-art private hospitals. So sometimes they take a lot of their time in their private enterprises than in the public. So that one is something which is supposed to be negotiated so that at least there is no conflict of interest.
Right. And as we wind up, in terms of legislation, what would you want to be done? Your colleagues are in Parliament. What are they working on to improve the level of education that we have?
We would wish to have legislation to cover so many things. But one of the things which is now pertaining now is to legislate on education in an emergency. You know, like a state of Israel and the way they stay with the Palestinians, they are in constant war, but at least education is going on because everybody is aware that this is what they. But now with us, we are now confined with sickness. Suppose there was war, how would we conduct education in emergency? So that one requires legislation. We need policy direction from that house, policy direction which directs that the schools as we have, we are not properly defined, because we have categorized schools which bring a lot of discrimination, and certain regions of this country have got better schools than others, and they are having more allocation than others. So you realize that some schools have got better facilities. Like now, with them, they don't mind. Even if schools were opened, they can relay lessons online. But there are some schools which also exist in this country where chalkboard is still being hung on a tree. So look at that bit. So we need a definition of education. We need a template that we categorize schools according to size. And we don't categorize schools according to national, extra, county, and sub-county. Because that one brings a lot of discriminatory benchmarks which make the learners to feel that I am not a national material. Yet education, one of the major objectives of education is to promote national unity and integration. Somebody who has gone to a school in a sub-county school will always feel inferior in how to exist with others. Yeah. And
there is universities and then there are technical training institutions. A long time ago, polytechnics used to be valued, and right now county governments are investing in technical education. What do you think probably needs to be done to take us back to how it was? Because back then, a village would have a plumber, the same village would have a mason, the same village would have different technical skills, people who are able to survive and make a living for themselves. Now degrees are more attractive. What sort of engagement should be there, and what should be injected to ensure that the technical training institutes are empowered and are able to churn out a generation that is able to take care of itself?
I just hope that the current trend of having technical vocational centers in every locality is continued and will not stop with the system of administration that we have now. It would be very, very important. It is a sad story that technical schools went away, because when 844 was created, we believed that we will have every school would have all those branches. But that curriculum was mutilated to an extent that we now found ourselves in another situation where we have to change to have competency-based. As things stand, it is my understanding and my hope that whoever is planning for education and for training should insist that this quest does not die. So we will still have people who are leaving basic education to go to TVETA institutions. This one will really sort out what used to happen in the past.
And are all counties investing enough in this?
At least most counties have these facilities. In fact, nearly a sub-county, a constituency has got a TVETA institution. If they could add to have two, would be okay, because we will be having secondary schools churning people to go to various fields. Some of them end up in the TVETA institutions.
All right.
This one will be good, yes.
Any last words for the people of Homa Bay County?
People of Homa Bay County and Kenya as a whole need to live safe. Let us keep safe and let us stop unnecessary anxiety. The situation in which we are require that we show commitment to and address ourselves to health concerns which are being informed by the information from the World Health Organization and the Ministry of Health. But for Homa Bay County, this is the time for us to rethink on how to go forward. We need to put our act together and ask our members of County Assembly to stop squabbling, fighting in the House. That is a house of honor, and we expect people who have been elected to carry the mantle of integrity to that house. Let them legislate on useful programs so that our people can get best services. I think that is my message this afternoon.
All right. Out of 10, you said that you are giving the education ministry 5 out of 10. Are you still giving it 5, or probably you are thinking to?
No, let them show that they deserve 7. But as at now, they have 5.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. That does it for us. That is the Secretary General for the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, Akelo Misori. And also that does it for us for this edition of News Check. We do thank you very much for joining us. Tamrini is coming up next.
On the next episode of
Kama ulijua huwezi kunilisha mimi, mbona ulinitoa kwetu? Kwa nini ulinioa na kuuliza? Fani ya mwanamke huku kwetu, ni akaendane, mwanaume naye atoke zake akachume. Umeelewa? Mwanaume tena kama wewe vile, lakini ana pesa. Ni tajiri wewe. Sisi hatosheki. Nyinyi wanaume ndio wabaya. Nyinyi hata hamridhiki kabisa, hata mfanywe nini.
Ukiona paka majani, hiyo nyumbani hashibi.
Tujeni kazi zenu.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television, and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m. on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. KBC English Service, Radio Taifa and 15 FM are also available countrywide on the free-to-air Signet digital TV platform, or log on to www.kbc.co.ke for live streaming, or download the KBC online app on Google Play Store. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, ensuring learning no matter what.
People gonna say all kind of things about you.
With them on, just shake up. Need to mush you and done to mush you. Wine your booty, girl, show me now.
Baby, one time. Bossy baby, give me 2 times. Full 180. Crazy.
Trago y ella la botella. Let's go.
Ha, I needed some with some bop in it. Mamacita, where you at? I've been trying to reach you.
Choro, 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 choro. Te pago, te pago, te pago.
Katoto shepu awe, ayawe, ayawe.
Pequeña katoto, kamini pequeña, pequeña
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Hakuna mtu ananijali. Hii relationship haija work for so long. I want to be happy. Na kama inamaanisha ku get divorce, then that's what we'll do.
Mapambano yameanza na huo ndo msimamo. Ujikate.
Mimi huongea mambo yalivyo. Nao watu ni wajinga sana. And stop harassing my in-laws. Staki mbuzi.
Next on
Nitakuona vipi ewe mtumwa wangu.
Tauba. Na tauba hii inamaanisha kutubu madhambi yako kwa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kwa ukweli. Ya pili ikiwa ni almuhasaba, yani kujihesabu nafsi yako, matendo yako yamekufikishia wapi na thawabu zako pia zimekufikisha wapi. Ya tatu ikiwa ni almuraqaba, kufahamu kuwa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anakuona hata kama humuoni. Na ya mwisho ni almujahada, kujitahidi katika kutenda mema.
That's the